This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. In a worrying development for the Democrats, their star, according to CNN, is running for the Senate in Texas. Yes, Jasmine Crockett. And this is how she kicked off her campaign.
Now, many people wonder why I jumped in this race so late, and I just want to be clear that this was never my intention. This was never about me. I never put myself into any of the polls. Listen, my question was, which congressional seat would I be running for? And for Texas 30, I love you, Texas 30. Okay, I'm gonna finish.
Oh, spare me. Does she really love Texas? This is how she described the state when she first joined Congress.
In fact, Ms. Perry, I know your organization, the Heritage Foundation, loves Texas. Ooh, they love Texas. They always sending us some nonsense bills that somehow set this country on the wrong trajectory. They send them to Texas. They send them to Florida. Every deplorable state that we can think about, they usually coming out of y'all's think tank.
Deplorable state. Okay. And as Jasmine Crockett has been making a name for herself for some time, she's been very open about her view on criminals. According to Jasmine Crockett, criminals are not people who commit crimes.
I understood what was kind of pushing them there. And so I do want people to know that just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal. That is completely different. Being a criminal is more so about your mindset. Committing a crime can come for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, according to Jasmine Crockett, she believes that the majority, 80% of violent crimes in America is because of white supremacists.
But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th, tearing our democracy down physically. And now we have them tearing us down right here from within.
Yeah, that is a completely made up statistic. Does she perhaps have a problem with white men?
That's what's happening right now. I am tired of the white tears. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education.
No problem at all, although she's open to the idea that only white people should be paying tax.
Just this past week, I saw, I don't remember which celebrity, but it was actually a celebrity. And I was like, I don't know that that's not necessarily a bad idea, but I'd have to think through it a lot. One of the things that they propose is black folk not have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time, because then again, that puts money back in your pocket. But at the same time, it may not be as objectionable to some people about actually giving out dollars. But obviously then you start dealing with the different tax brackets and things like that. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, we argue the reparations make sense, because so many black folk, not only do you owe for the labor that was stolen and killed and all the other things, right? But the fact is, like, we end up being so far behind, right? And so it's like, how do you bring forth people? Exactly. And so it's like, if you do the no tax thing for people that are already, say, struggling and aren't really paying taxes in the first place, it doesn't really exactly.
They may want those checks like they got during COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is fascinating to see Jasmine Crockett make her really well thought out and considered arguments in the media. Just recently, she was caught out for naming and shaming Republicans that she claimed took donations from sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The only problem with what she said was it wasn't true. This is her response on CNN.
Do you want to correct the record on the people that you
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled. And that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
Fascinating, truly fascinating. And just like Kamala Harris, Jasmine Crockett has been showing off different accents on stage.
Baby, because these people, they are crazy because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you, and the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in the divorce. I'm like, ooh, that's got to be true because your lawyer would know that they going to lose it if they...
She always references Google. Don't know why she does that. Again, this is the Democrats' big star, according to CNN, and it hasn't even been 2 days since Jasmine Crockett announced that she was running for the Senate in Texas, and she's already telling people in the state who voted for Donald Trump last year, nearly 6 million people, that she doesn't need them.
How will you convert those who are supportive of him to voters for you?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll necessarily convert all of Trump supporters. That's not our goal.
Do you need to?
Our goal is to definitely talk to people. No, we don't. We don't need to. Our goal is to make sure that we can engage people that historically have not been talked to.
If you're a homeowner in America, you need to listen to this. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud on the rise called title theft, and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on a single document, use a fake notary stamp and file it with the county, and just like that, on record, they own your home. Using your ownership, they can take out loans against your equity or even sell your property, and you won't know about it until foreclosure or collection notices show up in the mail. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock so you can protect your equity and find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code POWER at hometitlelock.com. You'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title records, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud occurs, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. That's hometitlelock.com, promo code POWER, or use the link below. Joining us now is Brittany Hopper, independent journalist. Brittany, it is great to see you again. Let's start with Jasmine Crockett. She's launched a last-minute campaign for the US Senate, announcing her campaign in a speech to supporters in Dallas, vowing to stand up against Donald Trump. And this is the ad that she's going with.
How about this new one they have, their new star, Crockett? How about her?
She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man, oh, man.
She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
Brittany, unfortunately for Jasmine Crockett, this is going viral for all the wrong reasons. Plenty of people are sharing this, saying, I agree with every word of that advertisement. Can I get your reaction?
So look, she's a former civil rights attorney. I'm not sure about the score of her IQ. However, this campaign, what she put out, was not very smart. It's quite hilarious, and it seems to be working against her, not for her. You know, this is a woman who has far left ideologies. Her goal is to turn Texas blue, which in my opinion, I highly doubt she's going to be able to. But, you know, she and Trump, Trump's kind of made her known. And so without Trump, the catch of this whole thing is that, like, without Trump, she really wouldn't even be this known. But it's kind of, you know, grab your popcorn and watch the two of them go at it. The things that he says, once again, true or false, is just hilarious. And so, yeah, but this campaign is not it. It's not working for her.
And isn't it concerning that this is the star of the Democratic Party? I mean, apart from Donald Trump that you mentioned, you've also got outlets like CNN and MSNBC that are really making Jasmine Crockett known. Last year on the Katie Fang show on MSNBC, Jasmine Crockett and Katie Fang were in tears about how much they were going to miss one another. And here's CNN's Dana Bash just talking up Jasmine Crockett's star power.
Jasmine Crockett is running for Senate in Texas, and you want to know how much star power she has? Well, the guy who was the front runner in the Democratic primary race for this seat in Texas, he dropped out because of this.
Brittany, CNN calling Jasmine Crockett a big star. I mean, who could have seen that coming?
So listen, okay, this is what I think. I mean, because I was on the news, the media for almost 2 decades here in the United States, and when you have a certain narrative and you continuously say that narrative and you tell the people that narrative, they're going to believe it. So they're all in cahoots here, mainstream media. Let's make her the star. She's the face of the Democratic Party. She's an absolute joke. And this is what we keep saying about the Democratic Party. It's not what we used to know of it. It's been hijacked by the far left. And the far left loony bins, I should add. So, and she's part of it. So we'll just see. I mean, sadly, she is the face, but that's the face. That's what they're using. She has a beautiful face, don't get me wrong, but her ideologies are so whack out there that I just can't imagine her changing Texas and then in the future possibly changing our country.
As you say, get the popcorn out. We'll be watching this closely. Now, as we look towards the midterm elections next year, we're going to be seeing more of Donald Trump out on the campaign trail. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles says that Trump will be out campaigning like it's 2024 to fight to keep the majority in both the House and Senate next year. Let's take a listen.
He's going to have a fun next year, but we're going to put him on the campaign trail too. Typically, just a little bit of campaign speak, if I may.
Yeah.
Typically, in the midterms, it's not about who's sitting at the White House. It's you localize the election,
right,
and you keep the federal officials out of it. We're actually going to turn that on its head.
Good.
And put him on the ballot, because so many of those low propensity voters are Trump voters.
Yes, they are.
And we saw a week ago Tuesday what happens when he's not on the ballot and not active. So I haven't quite broken it to him yet, but he's going to campaign like it's 2024 again.
Oh.
Brittany, as we know, there is no one who campaigns like Donald Trump. I mean, last year we saw him working at McDonald's. We saw him driving a garbage truck. It was incredible. What can we expect next year, and how crucial is it for Republicans that he does get out there?
Oh, it is so crucial. And I think that Trump knows how crucial it is. We've heard him time and time again say that our country's in a crossroads right now. You know, it's either going to go one way, the dark side, the way that we're seeing what has happened in your country, in the UK, in Europe, in Canada, or it's going to go the other way and we can actually have this country survive. So we're in the middle of, this is a crucial time, and he knows that. I don't know anyone who loves this country more than him. So I really do predict that he is going to campaign as if he's campaigning for a third run.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm looking forward to seeing it as well, because he always brings the entertainment, of course. Now let's talk about what's happening in Florida. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is designating the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations as foreign terrorist organizations. It follows similar action taken by Texas, and Ron DeSantis posted on X, this is happening effective immediately. He said that Florida agencies are hereby directed to undertake all lawful measures to prevent unlawful activities by these organisations, including denying privileges or resources to anyone providing material support. Brittany, I mean, what is the reaction over in Florida? I'm sure there's plenty of support for this.
I mean, a ton of support. Look, when you have an organization that has been proven to help these nationally and internationally declared terrorist organizations, I mean, we have to, when someone says who they are, believe it. So I think that this is so much safer. This is so good for security. I wish the entire nation and more states would follow in DeSantis' suit. You know, I think this is great. As a now Floridian, I was born and raised in California, but as you know, we moved to Florida 2 years ago. I think that this is great for our security and safety. And like I said, I think more people, not only within this country, but also around the world, should join in on this and do similar organizations on how and what they're doing to help terrorists, known organizations around the world.
Absolutely. Brittany, we're almost at the end of the year now. We only have a few Power Hour shows to go, and we are so grateful to have you as a brilliant part of this show. Looking back at the year and the leaders and what's been going on in America, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who's your winner and who's your loser for the year?
Okay. I mean, look, I have to say my winner is Donald Trump, President Trump. Yeah, he's definitely hands down the winner in my eyes, and the loser, that's a pretty boy Gavin Newsom. Oh yeah, he's the loser in my book for 2025.
And I wonder why Gavin Newsom could be a loser for the year. I mean, look how he handled the devastating LA fires at the start of the year. This is him lying about the reservoirs being full.
I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt in reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full, the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to.
Now, he's just so slippery, isn't he? But I have to agree with you with Donald Trump. Yes, of course.
Can I just say, I lived right near that reservoir for years, and for at least 3 years, that reservoir was empty. I mean, it's shocking to me that a politician can just blatantly lie like this. And with today's social media and today people coming out, and anyone could be a reporter at this point, you're going to get proven otherwise. So, oh, he's my loser for 2025, 1000%.
Yeah, and I think you made the right choice there. Whereas you look at all Donald Trump's achievements, all the conflicts around the world he's been able to bring to an end, closing the border, it is just incredible. What about your craziest media moment? Of course, we look at what the left-wing media, how they cover stories. A lot of the time they get it so wrong. What's your craziest media moment, would you say?
I mean, I have to say, and I know, oh gosh, you were so wonderful when you were reporting this, but I have to say one of the biggest media moments in 2025, unfortunately, was sadly Charlie Kirk's assassination on TV. We all saw it. And then, the disgusting aftermath of, regardless if you agreed with his ideologies or disagreed, I mean, the aftermath of what we saw, the far left and how they handled his assassination, and even how mainstream media handled it in many ways, just another divide when it should have brought us together, as far as everyone, no matter where you fall on the line politically. Let's just come together and agree free speech is free speech and not be censored. And here we are. I mean, it just completely divided us once again. And so that to me stands out as the most in 2025.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was so awful to see some of the reporting after his assassination, the way people still continue to try and demonize Charlie Kirk even months after he was assassinated. You had Jimmy Kimmel lying about the alleged shooter, saying that he was a MAGA person. Yet it's been revealed that Jimmy Kimmel is not going anywhere. So even though he lied about the shooter, was suspended for a week, then cried about getting suspended, didn't apologize to the family or anyone who loved and cared about Charlie Kirk. But yeah, he's not going anywhere. The host has just signed a one-year contract extension with ABC. So Jimmy Kimmel Live will continue through to May 2027. Can I get your thoughts on that, Brittany?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I will say, let's see how his monologues are going to be done a little differently. I do think that there's going to be some changes. I don't know if we'll see him get as political. Now, look, we're not really in a political season. We'll be in midterms, but I don't know. I think he's going to reel back a little bit. I really do, and not be as biased. And I don't know for sure, and we can't confirm this, but I think that was part of the deal of renegotiating this contract to keep him on until 2027. Okay. And you know what? Hopefully more of these commentators, more of these comedians, so to speak, will follow suit. But we'll see. Again, it goes back to continuously saying the certain narrative and the same narrative to folks. They're going to believe it. So now we have even comedians and actors stick to the script, stick to being funny. You don't need to just make jabs at Trump. If you're going to make jabs at Trump, make jabs at the other folks, because they're doing a much much horrible job.
Yeah. Well, I hope they listen to you. Brittany Hopper, independent journalist, thank you so much for your time.
Bye. Thank you.
Joining us now is Michael Kroger, former president of the Victorian Liberal Party and Sky News contributor. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Donald Trump, he has blasted European leaders, saying that they are weak, they have failed to control immigration, and they are too politically correct. The US president told Politico that most European nations are decaying. He says that many of those countries will not be viable countries any longer because their immigration policy is a disaster. He also attacked European leaders for not taking decisive action to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, claiming they don't know what to do. And this is Donald Trump. Well, this is part of the interview with Politico after Politico named Trump as the most influential person shaping Europe.
So how involved are you going to get? I mean, could we see you getting involved in European
I want to run the United
example?
States. I don't want to run Europe. I'm involved in Europe very much.
Might you endorse
NATO
candidates?
calls me daddy. I mean, I have a lot to say about it. Look, I raised, the GDP from 2% to 5%. The 2% they weren't paying and the 5% they are paying. And they're paying it because when we send things over, NATO pays for it, and I assume they give it to Ukraine. But Europe is being destroyed.
Michael, what's your assessment of this?
Well, you're never in any doubt about what he thinks. And I mean, basically, he views the Europeans as sort of a group of leaders sitting at the Ritz in Paris or London, having afternoon tea. That's how he sort of views them. So in relation to the Ukraine, I, like a lot of people, would prefer him to be much more pro-Zelensky. But on the other hand, what's he actually doing here? He's actually saying to the Europeans, this is your business. This is not the Americans' business. And the Americans shouldn't be funding your war. Ukraine is part of, extended Europe. So his perceived weakness on Ukraine is basically him saying to the Europeans, this is your business. You are increasing defence spending, and it's your business to defend Ukraine, you weak lot, which is basically what he's saying to them. So much of what he's saying is right about immigration, of course. We see what's happening in France, you see what's happening in England, you see what has already happened in places like Belgium. So his message to the Europeans is, you've got to be a lot stronger in relation to your borders, your country and your defences. And on that, it's pretty hard to criticise him because I think he's right.
Let's talk about AUKUS. The Trump administration has assured that the AUKUS deal with Australia is going to go full steam ahead. So the debate now is how best to manage the AUKUS pact. Of course, acquiring nuclear submarines is estimated to cost around $368 billion through to 2055. So part of that, Michael, would you say would be, of course, lifting defence spending?
Well, you'd think so, but like a lot of these Western nations, I mean, there's a great reticence to lift the spending because it means the governments have got to either go heavily further into debt or they've got to cut social programs, and neither of those are particularly palatable. So let's be frank though, Gabriella, for a lot of governments, when you can kick something into the 2050s, that's an easy sell. People say, oh, yeah, we like the idea of submarines. Well, we don't have to pay for them and get them delivered for a decade or more. That's an easy political sell. So we're not getting the first subs till the Virginia-class subs till the early 2030s. And again, that's probably beyond the life of the current Australian government. So this is the way, you can talk all you like about how wonderful it is. We're getting nuclear subs. We're building a base in Western Australia to service them, and they'll be used for our defence in the Pacific, et cetera, et cetera. But it's such a long way away. It's a win-win for Australia, and it's certainly a win-win for America.
Now, Michael, it appears that the New York Times has just discovered that Biden's border crisis was quite bad. This week, they published an article titled How Biden Ignored Warnings and Lost Americans' Faith in Immigration, which revealed that Joe Biden was warned by advisors that his immigration plans could lead to chaos, would you believe, at the US border, and Biden ignored those warnings. So according to this memo obtained by the New York Times, Biden's advisors said that a potential surge could create chaos and a humanitarian crisis, overwhelm processing capabilities, and they offered steps that Joe Biden could take to stop the influx of illegals, but Biden ignored that advice. Michael, why is the New York Times writing about this now? I mean, why are they suddenly writing about the crisis at the border now, long after it matters?
Because it doesn't matter politically now. You know, the election's over. They were trying to help the Democrats, but to square the circle for history, because they're a newspaper of record, they say, oh, yes, of course, we talked about the border crisis. Well, of course, you know, hello, a year after the election. I mean, don't forget, the New York Times has a notorious record. It was slow in the 1950s to be concerned about the expansion of the Nazis. The New York Times has a notorious record for being hard left on these types of issues and missing the mark and deliberately trying to assist those on the left in American politics in particular. So this was an appalling oversight by the New York Times. It's why you can't trust the New York Times. I mean, you really can't trust the newspaper. They censor news, basically. That's what they do. And when a news organisation like that censors the news because it's harmful to their side. I mean, you look at what's happening in Minnesota now. For years and years, people have been talking about how these frauds have been taking place under that dope Tim Walz. That's you know, the complete dope of a governor. Now it's only that a lot of the old legacy, the fossil media, are getting onto this. So this is a notorious part of the left-wing media in America. It's been like this for a long period of time, and it's why their news sources are no longer trusted, Gabriella.
Yeah, and just reading that, it reminds me of CNN's Jake Tapper writing a book that Biden isn't that sharp anymore. I mean, some fair reporting at the time would have actually been useful.
Yes.
Michael, we are asking everyone's winner and loser of the year. It's been a pretty wild and big year in news. Who's your winner? Who's your loser?
Well, I think the winner has to be Trump in America. I mean, people say his polls are down. Yeah, and there's a reason for that. Revolutions are always messy. People think, yes, we should have a revolution. When the actual revolution's on, people go, oh, it's very untenable. It's messy. It's making me feel uncomfortable. I don't like it. It's concentrating on the wrong things. It's not talking about me. It's, you know, they're talking about other things like Europe and Gaza, etc. So the polls are down because people think, well, you know, it's not really about me and it's messy. What happens, though, in a year or 2 years' time, as you get close to the presidential election in 28, people will look back on the Trump period and say, well, this guy stopped all these wars. He got the hostages out. He bombed the Iranian nuclear facilities, 27 minutes that took. He closed the American borders, one of the most significant achievements. He stopped or slowed the flow of fentanyl into America. He's cleaning up American universities. He's done a hell of a lot to expose the disgusting anti-Semitism, you know, coming out of American universities, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, American supremacy and resetting the world order has been an extraordinary achievement. The most consequential president in my lifetime. We don't like everything he does, but boy, when you look at that list, that's been a year for the ages. To be a little bit more flippant and less serious, the loser of the year, it has to be that fool Greta Thunberg, hasn't it? And that anyone takes Greta Thunberg seriously, I mean, she's a dial demonstration, and she's had a shocker of a year, so she goes down as my loser of the year, and let's hope we've seen the last of Greta, Gabriella.
I don't think we have, Michael. I'm sorry to tell you. She's going back to protesting about climate change, causing so much chaos.
Stick to that.
She claimed.
Stick to that.
Yes, but yeah, she claimed she was kidnapped by Israel. She was given sandwiches, deported. Unbelievable. A good loser, good choice, I should say. What about the craziest media moment?
Well, I think that fellow Matthew Dowd put on a disgusting performance after the death of the great Charlie Kirk, when he made those awful comments for which he was sacked, basically trying to say, well, you know, really he deserved it. And
let's take a listen. You know, we have the grab, Michael. Let's take a listen.
You do. Great.
But following up what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful action.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting, suggesting it was his fault. Just appalling.
That is sick and wrong on so many levels. I mean, could you have seen a more respectful person than Kirk? I mean, you know, I was at university, as you were many years ago, and the hatred on universities and the abuse, but the way he treated people with extraordinary respect when they got to the microphone in hundreds of those meetings. What's this clown talking about? Hateful language. No, he was entering into a debate with people, and then basically to say, oh, well, it could have been one of his own supporters, you know, just letting off steam. I mean, really? I mean, that type of sicko shouldn't be on television, and thank goodness he was sacked. And let's hope we don't see the like of him again, because that was just a disgusting part of our history. And that clip will be long remembered for all of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, no, it was disgusting. Michael, looking ahead, what are the challenges for leaders next year?
You know, I think as always, the global economy is a worry. You know, too many Western governments have such debt levels, it's beyond belief. One of my criticisms of Trump is that, you know, the big beautiful bill is going to take American debt from 36 to 39 trillion US dollars. That's serious money. I mean, sooner or later, Western governments, because there's so much pressure on them to increase defence spending and social services, they're massively increasing their debt. There will be a day of reckoning. So what would be hopeful in the next couple of years is for the OECD to get together, and both the G8, the G20, to basically say, hey, our debt levels are so severe, we can't keep spending money beyond our capacity to properly run our economy. So I think the challenge for the next year and then the year after that is, how do we get governments who've got surplus budgets paying down their debt and living within their means, because they're just leaving. It's not just Trump, Australia's worse. We're just leaving huge deficits, these legacies, which we're leaving for our children and you know, and their children, and it's a shocking legacy we're leaving. And so the focus on international growing debt in Western nations, to me, is right up the top of the list of things that need to be properly examined.
Well, speaking of spending money, let's talk about Annika Wells. Just quickly, finally, there are calls for Communications Minister Annika Wells to stand down amid the controversy of her use of taxpayer funds, charging taxpayers $100,000 to attend a 3-day summit in New York, a trip to Thredbo. Michael, should she resign?
Well, I think she probably should. I mean, she's not the only person that's done this. But if you look at a list of expenses, I mean, she goes to the tennis, she keeps the Commonwealth driver car waiting for 7 hours. And spends $1,000 whilst the car's waiting outside. I mean, I always look at it this way: would you spend your own money that way? Would a small businessman or woman spend their money that way? An American farmer, you know, an Australian childcare worker, would you go to the tennis and keep the car waiting? No, but because it's on the taxpayer, and that to me says that there's a mindset. There's a mindset of a minister, which is, it's on the public expense. I don't care what it costs. I don't really care. And she's done that on numerous occasions. And so the shocking disregard for the taxpayer dollar is something I just find appalling. And yeah, she should resign. I mean, people in Australia are disgusted by what they've seen, but this is typical of a lot of our politicians. There's been a bit of this on both sides over the years. So yeah, she should go, and you know, we can get some proper rules and regulations about ministerial expenditure, because at the minute they're out of control.
Michael Kroger, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. See you next year.
Joining us now is Andrew Eborn, UK barrister and broadcaster and president of Octopus TV. Andrew, brilliant to see you.
It's always a delight to see you, Gabrielle. I love the black and white.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about Prince Harry. So Prince Harry has joked that life with the royal family was like Downton Abbey, only with more drama than the show, and he made the comments during an appearance at a British-American Business Council event in LA, just days after mocking Donald Trump on Colbert's show. What do you make of this?
Well, it's interesting. The firm, all script, no soul, is what he's saying, basically. More twists in the royal family than there are basically in Downton Abbey. And it's extraordinary what sort of happened on that sort of basis. So it was honouring the wonderful Julian Fellows, who's the Downton creator. And what he said, people sometimes ask if growing up with the royal family was a bit like Julian's Downton Abbey. Yeah, but only one of those worlds is filled with drama, intrigue, elaborate dinners, marriages to Americans, and the other is a TV show delivered with all the wonderful classic timing. That was Harry doing a very old gag, but he did it very, very well. And it's true, the amount of drama in the royal family that we've had this year, it puts not just Downton Abbey, but Shakespeare to shame.
Well, it's also being pointed out, the evolution of Prince Harry. I mean, watching him, he's gone from mocking his family, pocketing millions of dollars as he's been doing that, complaining about the media from his mansion, and now mocking Donald Trump. And some say that his appearance on Colbert was a new low, and we are watching Harry spiral into irrelevance, and it's becoming painful to watch. Is that a bit harsh, or is it fair?
Well, I have to say, I mean, I like some of the things that Harry does, and I often call out in his favour the things he does, sort of like the Invictus Games for injured service people, and also things that when he talks about mental health, I think that's great. But it was appalling what he did on Stephen Colbert's US talk show on Wednesday night, pretending to be a Hallmark prince that he wanted to do this terrible audition for. As you say, he was mocking Donald Trump. He talked about electing a king effectively and got boos from the audience. I'm not sure that's for Donald Trump or for Harry doing it. But he's not a good actor on this. It reminds me of when Prince Edward used to do this at the Royal It's a Knockout. And the press basically delivered a condemning report about their attempts to do that. But basically what's happened, Harry he's been a bit lost, hasn't he, in America? He's playing second fiddle to everybody's favorite megalomaniac. And what's happening there, they've lived in America since 2020. He's had all sorts of problems since they sort of trying to dish the dirt on the royal family, if you like, through Spare. Well, Spare Us All. That has fragmented his relationship with his brother William and also with the king, which he's desperately trying to repair. But he's also had lots of run-ins over here with various newspaper groups and so on and so forth, and also with whether he should get protection when he's here or not here and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting time, but it's a sort of love-hate relationship with Harry. As I say, there are some great bits there, but also some cringe-worthy bits. And I think the Stephen Colbert basic piece, which we saw, was probably one of the lowest I've seen him do for a very, very long time.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It was so cringe, and he was getting booed from a Colbert audience. You know, that says so much. The joke about no kings, it was really off the mark. Now, Prince Harry, though, he has scored a major win in his fight to secure 24-hour armed police protection while he's in the UK. This means that the royal family could be seeing more of him. Do you think that's the case, Andrew?
I think it certainly is, and this is a case that he lost about the royal protection. He's always said it's one of the most important battles that he has had is to try and get this royal protection. They're now saying, he's written to the Home Secretary over here and said, look, there's security concerns. I do not feel safe bringing my wife and children to the UK. And he talked about people who've been stalking him and so on and so forth. And what's happened is effectively they might do a U-turn on this basis. So he's written to, as I say, to the Home Secretary and say, look, can you have a look at it? So Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is basically requesting a full security risk assessment. And it's now understood he might be on the verge of getting his way. This was reported in The Sun, and the Home Office, as I say, have ordered this threat assessment for the first time since he stepped down as a working royal. And the review will be conducted by what's called the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, RAVEC, affectionately called. It's the very government Harry previously battled in the High Court. And I was actually during that judgment. I sat watching him in court on that stage. He came over, as he did for various the other cases that he had over here. And now what's going to happen is they've got this risk management board to reassess his threat level. And Harry's made it very clear he wants to reunite with his father. He says, look, his focus has got to be on Charles, who has spoken very publicly about his cancer diagnosis. And this could very well help pave the way on that sort of basis. What's going to be interesting is the general public's reaction to when Harry returns with Meghan. And we had that cringe-worthy thing, you might remember, which I watched just to make you happy, the Meghan Christmas special. And poor old Harry, he was wheeled out yet again, just to make sure he suffered as much as she possibly could. They made a salad with all of the worst things, the things that Harry really hated, like beetroot and anchovies and various and fennel seeds if they had such a thing. But yes, poor old Harry was wheeled out on that sort of basis. But it will be interesting if he returns, because the fight of the two brothers, Shakespearean in tone, will basically be amplified as a result.
Be very interesting to watch. Now, Meghan Markle, as you mentioned, was making a salad on her show, but she's now going from selling jam to chocolate bars, and she's unveiled 3 limited edition treats using signature ingredients from her As Ever brand, including her raspberry spread and her flower sprinkles, Andrews. That is the spark her sweet nostalgia. I mean, this flower sprinkles, you cannot even make this up. She's selling the chocolate bars for $12, so she's already getting criticised for that and that price. Talk to us about the chocolate bars. What's the reaction been so far?
It is, I mean, an absolute scandal. Sweet success, I don't believe. And it's 12 American dollars, not even US, not even Australian dollars. 12 US dollars for her As Ever bars. And these are the flavours. I was looking at them earlier, as I always do on these sort of things. There they are. You probably brought out the pictures of them. You've got bee pollen shortbread, hemp heart flour sprinkles, hurrah, never miss those out, and raspberry jam spread. Apparently, they sold out in hours. There's probably only 2 bars available. But the social media, it burst vessel with people calling it disgusting. One person said it tastes like lawn clippings. Pretentious AF, I won't swear, but that's what they were saying. And reviewers basically said it's absolute joke to £12 for a chocolate bar with weird flavours in it. Who ruins chocolates with flour sprinkles, asked one person. And bee pollen, leave that for the bees. There's no way I'd pay $12 for a random chocolate bar with weeds in it. Gross, added another critic. They're basically calling out for a very plain chocolate bar. Would be rather interesting on that sort of basis. But then we wouldn't have anything to talk about, Gavin. We probably would.
True. What about the flower sprinkles? She'll never let those go, will she? Now let's talk about.
We love it. It's so good for her. And as I say, she missed a trick this year with Taylor Swift when Taylor Swift got married or announced her engagement rather in that glorious garden. She should have said that's where she got the flower sprinkles from.
I know, a missed opportunity. Now let's talk about Princess Catherine. She's hosted her annual Christmas Carol concert at Westminster Abbey. The theme of the service held in the candlelit Abbey was kindness and showing love to others. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, it's glorious, isn't it? We go from the absurdity of the Montecito madness to the glorious Princess Catherine. And this is what she did. It was a glow-up, wasn't it? Pure class, while the Sussexes were crafting glue gun wreaths, wasn't it? And it was the Westminster Abbey. They had William, George, Charlotte, Louis. They were all there. They had A-listers turning out as well. I see you've got a picture of Paddington Bear. Kate Winslet, Eugene Levy, who did that wonderful interview with William, as you know. Dame Mary Berry from our famous baker over here. And they had real heroes as well, Holocaust survivors, D-Day veterans and young carers. And there was all sorts of things like sea shanties were sung. They had Bible readings. And the theme, as you say, was all about kindness. If you can be anything in this world, be kind. And this is what it was. It was great to see her again after her own cancer diagnosis. People love Princess Catherine over here. They had 1,600 guests, and they heard a mix of traditional carols, music, and poems. As I say, Kate Winslet was there. It was lovely to see her there. And there was a Bible reading from Prince William himself from the pulpit. And it was all held in the candlelit Abbey. And it was absolutely glorious to see that sort of stuff. She was also wearing this long green Christmassy coat. And what she did, she's a princess for the people, because she met members of the congregation inside the Abbey and she spoke to Holocaust survivors and so on and so forth, as well as, I say, Eugene Levy, who lifted the lid, peeked beneath the kimono of what Prince William's really like. It was a beautiful message, and I say the message this year was, in a fragmented and disconnected world, small acts of generosity and love can bring people and communities together. There you go.
There you go. All class, Princess Catherine. Now, Prince William is going to make a major change to royal family Christmas traditions. Now, we've been speaking about the Christmas traditions, but talk to us about this major change. What's Prince William going to do?
Well, his manner, one of the things he said with this great interview, as I say, with Eugene Levy, is to sort of turn around and say, we're going to modernise the royal family. We're going to get rid of a lot of the pomp. A bit of a pity, really, because I think the people like the pomp. But he's ready. He thinks some of the Sandringham rules are really, really weird. So some of the things they have, for example, you have dinner at Sandringham on Christmas Eve, and that's a black tie event. It's a precise schedule. There's seating plans which are dictated by rank. And as I said last time, the last person to come in to the reception is the most senior one, the king. Christmas lunch itself has no formal seating plan, but the royals come to a table from their rooms, and the rooms themselves are arranged by their status. So lower tier members of the family are basically housed in what are servants' quarters, as far away from the dining room as possible. Now, Zara Tindall, who's the daughter of Princess Anne, she was not assigned an HRH title at birth. She would be the last person to come in as a result of her being quite lowly on the pecking order. And William, I can tell you, absolutely adores Zara. So he would hate the practice of leaving her to the back of the queue. But William also wants to get rid of these wonderful little traditions, which I quite liked last time. I was telling you about these, the naff gifts that they give to each other, which are basically these are £5 gags, which you have, and you had all sorts of tchotchke things which are given. I remember there was a loo seat, a leather loo seat given as one present. You had a picture of the Queen's face on all sorts of things like slippers and so on and so forth. But that's what he wants to do. He wants to have a more relaxed, basically a Middleton family type vibe is what I'd call it.
Okay, Andrew Eborn, UK barrister and broadcaster, president of Octopus TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's always a joy, Gabriella. See you next week.
That is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.